Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 9th March 2019. So let us start our discussion. This article on page number 7 is related to the recommendations which have been provided by a high-powered committee which was created by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And these recommendations have been related to the definitions which are used by the forest surveys. And you should note that the Forest Survey of India comes out with a biennial report which is known as State of Forests. And the recent report was released in 2017 and it was known as the State of Forests Report 2017. So this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 under the topic Environment. So in this article we will try to understand what is the issue regarding the definition which is used by these forest surveys. So in this article, we will try to understand what is the main difference between a forest cover definition which is used by these forest surveys. Secondly, what is the definition of recorded forest area and what is meant by the term tree cover. Also, we'll look at the target which has been set by the Government of India regarding the forests in India. And this target was set in the Forest Policy of 1988. And finally, we will look at the recommendations which have been provided by this high-powered committee which was created by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So here first let us understand what is the difference between the definition of forest cover and the recorded forest area which is used by the Forest Survey of India. Now regarding the forest cover, you should note that it refers to all the lands which are more than 1 hectare in area with a tree canopy of more than 10%. So the definition is that this includes all those areas which are greater than 1 hectare and have a forest canopy of more than 10%. Now, one important point to be noted here is that it includes all lands irrespective of their land use, ownership or legal status. And it can further include orchards, bamboos, palms, etc. So this means that it can include commercial plantations, private plantations, and all those areas outside the forest area. So this means that the definition of forest cover which is used by the Forest Survey of India is very wide. And it also includes the private plantations or the commercial plantations as well. Further, you should note that as the forest cover is defined as any area which is larger than 1 hectare and has a forest canopy of greater than 10%, it means that it does not take into account the fragmentation of forests. Which means that the definition of forest cover also includes the fragmented or the degraded forests in itself. So that is why there was issue regarding the definition of the forest cover. Now, in contrast to this definition of forest cover, the definition of forest area is different. And it includes all those geographic areas which are recorded as forests in the government records. And these mainly consist of the reserved forests, protected forests, and all these forests have been notified under the provisions of Indian Forest Act 1927. Besides the reserved forests and the protected forests, the recorded forest area also includes all those forests which have been recorded in the revenue records. Now, as you can see here, the definition of forest cover is very different from the recorded forest area definition. So the concerns which have been raised against this forest cover definition is that it also includes the private plantations, the commercial plantations, and also degraded forests. So that is why this does not tell us about the quality of forests in India. Now here it is important to note that the difference between the forest cover and the recorded forest area is also important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. So you should keep these facts in mind, that what is meant by the definition of forest cover and what is meant by the term recorded forest area. Now besides the definition of forest cover and recorded forest area, you should also know the definition of tree cover. And it includes the area comprising of tree patches which are less than 1 hectare. And these include trees which are outside the recorded forest. So basically the tree cover includes all those tree patches which fall outside the definition of forest cover and the definition of recorded forest area. Now regarding the State of Forest report, you should note that it is a biennial report, which means that this report comes out every 2 years. Secondly, this report is published by the Forest Survey of India. Now in the recent report which came out in 2017, India recorded a marginal 0.2% rise in the forest cover between 2015 to 2017. And this report highlights that India has a forest cover of about 7,08,273 square kilometers. and this is 21.53% of the total geographic area of the country. Now it is important to note that India's target is of bringing about 33% of India's area under the forests, and this goal was stated in the forest policy of 1988. And as has been shown in this infograph, presently the forest cover in India is about 21.53% of its total geographical area. Now if you look into this table, this column provides the total forest cover of India, and this includes all those areas which are greater than 1 hectare and have a forest canopy of greater than 10%. However, the total tree cover includes all those areas which are less than 1 hectare and are outside the recorded forest areas. Now let us look at the recommendations of the high-powered committee of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So in this regard, this committee has recommended that the forest survey reports or the state of forest report should explicitly demarcate trees grown in forests from those grown outside. So this committee has recommended that the forest survey reports should demarcate the trees which are grown in the recorded forest areas from that of the trees which are grown outside. And we know that presently the definition of forest cover includes the areas in the recorded forest areas as well as those areas where the trees are grown outside these forest areas. And these include the plantations and the private lands as well. Now the previously used definition of forest cover which is being used by the forest survey reports was criticized by the environmentalists also. And they highlighted that this practice of using this wide definition of forest cover is not ecologically sound. And this concern of the environmentalists has now been included in the recommendation of the high-powered committee of Ministry of Environment and Forest. Now after going through this discussion, you should try and answer this question from your preliminary examination point of view. The answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So if you look at this question, it reads, which of the following are correct about the state of forest report in India? The first statement reads that the forest cover includes only the recorded forests under the Forest Act of 1927. Now this is incorrect. As we have seen in the discussion, the forest cover includes all those areas which have a tree canopy of more than 10%, and it includes all those areas which are greater than 1 hectare. So it includes both the recorded forests as well as private plantations and commercial plantations also. The second statement reads that the tree cover includes the total area covered by trees out of the total geographical area of India. Now this statement is also incorrect because the tree cover includes all those areas which are less than 1 hectare and are also outside the recorded forest areas. And that is why the correct answer is D, that is neither one nor the statement 2 is correct. And with this, let us move on to the next article. Now this article on page number 1 is related to a survey of the Confederation of Indian Industries, and it is related to the jobs that have been created in the micro, small and medium enterprises sector of India. So this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 under the topic Economic Development. And previously in the year 2015, as we know, there was a question related to the nature of economic growth in India, and it has been described as a jobless growth. So in answering such questions, you can use the findings of these important surveys like the CII survey related to the jobs in MSME sector. Now the CII survey also becomes important because the National Sample Survey Organization had conducted a periodic labor force survey report, and it had highlighted the unemployment rate in India. Now this NSSO survey reported that the unemployment rate in India stood at a 45-year high, and this unemployment rate was around 6.1% in the year 2017 to 18. So in the background of this NSSO survey, which has highlighted that India is having the highest unemployment rate, the CII survey stands contrary to this report of NSSO. So that is why such conflicting reports can be used in answering your questions. For example, while highlighting the unemployment rate, you can use the findings of the NSSO survey. While highlighting the jobs which are being created in the Indian economy in the current scenario, you can highlight the findings of the survey of CII. So now let us look at what are the key findings of the CII survey. Now this survey of the Confederation of Indian Industries covered about 1 lakh micro, small and medium enterprises. And this survey shows that there has been an increase of about 13.9% net jobs over the past 4 years. And accordingly, the increase in jobs per annum has been about 3.3%. Regarding the geographical distributions of these jobs created in the MSME sector, you should note that the highest jobs were created in three states, and these are the Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Telangana. And these three states accounted for 50% of the jobs created in the MSME sector. Regarding the sector under the MSME, which has created the highest job, includes the hospitality sector, the tourism sector, and these were followed by the textile sector. And within the MSME sector, the micro enterprises, which were the smallest, created the largest jobs. Further, the survey highlights that the expectations on employment for the next 3 years are higher now. And these are because of the optimism which has been generated by the government initiatives. And these initiatives include the 2% interest subvention scheme which has been given to all MSMEs, and also another trade-related e-discounting system or the TRED system. So in short, this survey highlights the jobs that have been created by the micro, small and medium enterprises. Now, while answering questions which was asked in the year 2015, which read that the nature of economic growth in India in the recent times is often described as jobless growth, you have to point out that enough jobs are not being created, although some sectors are still generating jobs. And in this line, you can highlight that the MSME sector has witnessed a growth of 13.9% over the past 4 years, as has been highlighted by the CII survey. And while highlighting that economic growth in India has been a jobless growth, you can show that the jobs which are created by the MSME sector are restricted to only 3 states in India. So in this manner, you can use some of the points which are highlighted by such surveys in answering your questions. So although a direct question will not be asked on this news article, some of the points mentioned here can be used in answering mains questions. And with this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 14 is related to a recent guideline which has been provided by the RBI regarding the white label ATMs. And this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 under the topic Economic Development. And it can be a very important topic for us from the preliminary examination point of view. So in the preliminary examination syllabus also, it will form a part of the economic development. Now, in order to enhance the viability of these white label ATMs, the RBI has now decided to allow the white label ATM operators to buy wholesale cash above a threshold of 1 lakh pieces of any denomination directly from the RBI. Further, these white label ATM operators can source cash from any scheduled bank, including those of cooperative banks and the regional rural banks. Now, these guidelines have been provided by the RBI in order to make the white label ATMs functioning easy and viable. So it is important for us to understand what is meant by the term white label ATMs, what are the operational guidelines regarding these white label ATMs, and also what is the difference between a bank owned ATM, a brown label ATM and a white label ATM. Now, what are these white label ATMs? So these are those ATM machines which are set up and owned and operated by non-bank entities. Now, earlier the RBI allowed only the banks to set up the ATM machines. However, now it has allowed the non-bank entities also to set up ATMs, and these ATMs which are set by the non-bank entities are known as the white label ATMs. So here you should note that the Tata Communications Payment Solutions Limited is the first company which was authorized by the RBI to open the white label ATMs. And the name of the white label ATM which has been launched by the Tata Communications is known by the name IndiCash. Now, what are the operational guidelines by the RBI regarding the setting up of white label ATMs? So the RBI guidelines read that the non-banking entities are permitted to set up white label ATMs in India only after obtaining an approval from the RBI under the Payments and Settlement Systems Act 2007. Further, these white label ATM operators are entitled to receive a fee from the bank for the use of ATM resources by the bank's customers. Which means that if a bank wants its customers to allow the use of white label ATMs, the white label ATM operator can charge a fees on the bank. However, these white label ATM operators cannot charge the bank customers directly for the use of these ATMs. And also you should note that the government has permitted foreign direct investment up to 100% under the automatic route related to the setting up of white label ATMs. Now let us understand what is the difference between a bank owned ATM, a brown label ATM and a white label ATM. So regarding the bank-owned ATMs, you should note that these are set up and owned by the bank itself. Further, the bank is responsible for the overall operation and maintenance, and the banks are given responsibility of cash management, network connectivity, and security. Now, completely opposed to these bank-owned ATMs are the white label ATMs, and these are completely owned and managed by non-banking entities. Further, all operations including the ATM hardware, cash management, network connectivity, security is all looked by the non-banking entity. And further, these ATMs have the right to use their own logo. And midway between the bank-owned ATMs and the white label ATMs are the brown label ATMs. And these ATMs work on a cost-sharing concept. So in the brown label ATMs, the bank needs to take care of the cash management and the network connectivity, while a service provider, which is a non-banking entity, provides for the ATM machine. So in the brown label ATM's operation, the functions are divided, and the non-banking entity takes care of the ATM machines, while the cash management and the network connectivity is the responsibility of the bank. And in these brown label ATMs, the bank's logo is displayed on such ATMs. So as you can see that in the white label ATMs, the non-banking entity can use its logo. However, this non-banking entity cannot use its logo in the brown label ATM. And a benefit of the brown label ATMs is that these ATMs enable the banks to reduce their operation cost because they do not need to buy the ATM machines in such a setup. So the difference between the brown label, white label and the bank-owned ATMs is important from the preliminary examination point of view. And these points should be kept in mind. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 8 is related to the Italy's intention of joining the China's Belt Road Initiative. And here you should note that this intention of Italy of joining the Belt Road Initiative of China will make it the first amongst the G7 group of industrialized nations to join the Belt Road Initiative of China. And Italy is expected to sign an MOU to participate in the Belt Road Initiative during a visit of the Chinese President Xi Jinping in March in 2019. So only after the MOUs get signed, we will be aware about the extent of Italian participation in the Belt Road Initiative. So this is a news in transition. However, this will form a part of the General Studies paper 2 under the topic International Relations. Now you should note that the Belt Road Initiative and why is India not joining this Belt Road Initiative or the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is an important aspect for us from the exam point of view, and a question has been asked in the mains examination of 2018. And you should note that in the DNS of 1st November 2018, a detailed discussion on this question has been done. So you should go through this video to understand why is India not interested in joining the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or the CPEC. However, in this article, we will try to understand what is meant by the Belt Road Initiative membership and what are the likely benefits for Italy and China if Italy joins the Belt Road Initiative. Now, regarding the DNS of 1st November 2018, a link will be provided in the description box. So you can go through this video through that link. Now here it is important to learn that what is meant by the membership of the Belt Road Initiative and how does the membership of Belt Road Initiative differ from being a member of the other international institutions like IMF, World Bank or other organizations. So regarding the Belt Road Initiative of China, you should note that it is considered as an international club without formal membership. So it does not have any formal membership criteria. Secondly, Belt Road Initiative is not a multilateral organization and has no protocol for admitting members into the BRI initiative. Thirdly, it is also not a trade pact and it does not impose any clear rules on the participants regarding the trade benefits that are accrued by participating in the Belt Road Initiative. And by signing an MOU, a country does not become a member of the BRI, nor does it necessarily become entitled to the construction of China-funded infrastructure projects. However, signing of these MOUs may lead to the Chinese-funded projects in that country. Further, the Chinese-funded projects will only start if the recipient country and China both agree for the construction or initiation of that project. And if these Chinese-funded projects are connected to the larger Belt Road Initiative infrastructure, which passes through the Eurasia, only then that project would be considered as a part of the Belt Road Initiative. So the points that should be kept in mind and are important for us from the preliminary examination point of view are that the Belt Road Initiative is a club without formal membership. Further, it is not a multilateral organization and it is also not a trade pact. And by simply signing a MOU with China, a country does not become a member of the Belt Road Initiative. And by just signing a MOU, the Chinese funded projects do not start in that country, and they only start when both these countries agree for the starting of the projects. And all projects which are started by China are not considered as Belt Road Initiative unless they become the part of larger Belt Road infrastructure which passes through the Eurasia. So these points are important for us from the preliminary examination point of view and should be kept in your mind. Now, what are the benefits of Italy joining this Belt Road Initiative? So this shows that Italy is an investment destination for the Chinese investors. And all those investors who see Chinese investment into Italy as a good benchmark of Italian economy will further be attracted to the Italian economy. And also it showcases Italy as an alternative to the EU's larger economies. Now, as the other European Union countries are not joining the Belt Road initiatives, this stand of Italy showcases that Italy is different from the other larger EU economies. And that is why it is being seen as an alternative to the EU's other larger economies. Further, the benefits to China are that Chinese investments regarding the BRI have largely been concentrated in the Eastern and the Central Europe. So if Italy allows the Chinese investments now, the Chinese investments will now move into the Southern Europe also. Further, you should note that the G7 and the EU countries have been against the debt infrastructure practices of China. However, if Italy accepts this initiative of BRI of China, this will dilute the stand of the G7 countries and the EU countries, and this is likely to be beneficial for the China. And also the investment of China in Italy is for the first time being seen as a non-Western country, which is emerging as a major investor in an earlier colonial European country. So here we should note that in the last 2 centuries, most of the European countries were the main colonizers. However, this has now become a reversal as to a non-Western country is now being seen as an investor in the earlier European country of Italy. Now, although Italy has shown its intention to become a part of the Belt Road Initiative of China, it is yet to be ascertained as to what will be the extent of Italy's participation in the Belt Road Initiative of China. So this is a news in transition, and let us wait for the story to unfold further. And with this, let us move on to the next article. Now, this article on page number 7 is related to a recent notification of the UIDAI or the Aadhaar Authority. And this notification is related to the levying of fees on the verification by using Aadhaar. Now, such important aspects of Aadhaar can be asked in your preliminary examination. For example, if you consider this question which was asked in the year 2018, it reads, consider the following statement. The first statement reads that Aadhaar can be used as a proof of citizenship or domicile. Now, this was an incorrect statement because Aadhaar card cannot be used as a proof of citizenship or domicile. The second statement reads, once issued, the Aadhaar number cannot be deactivated or omitted by the issuing authority. Now, this statement was also incorrect because the issuing authority can deactivate or omit the Aadhaar number. So the correct answer here was D, that is neither one nor statement 2 is correct. So accordingly, a similar statement can be asked as to, for verification services using Aadhaar card, no charges are levied, and in that case, such a statement will be incorrect. So let us see what are the key highlights of this notification of the Aadhaar Authority. So the UIDAI notification reads that business organizations which are using Aadhaar for their customer verification will now have to pay rupees 20. Further, authentication of each transaction which is done using Aadhaar will now be charged at 50 paisa. So this means that the customer verification process is now chargeable according to this notification of UIDAI. However, there are certain exemptions, and these exemptions are available to the government entities and Department of Posts. And these departments will not have to pay from the authentication transaction charges. Further, all those scheduled commercial banks which are engaged in providing Aadhaar enrollment and update facilities will also be exempt from the authentication transaction charges. So these two are the exemptions, and besides these two, all other entities will have to pay for their customer verification or any transaction which is done using Aadhaar. So these points are important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And at the end of this discussion, in the practice question section, we will discuss a question related to this aspect of the UIDAI notification. With this, let us move on to the next article. Now, this article on page number 13 reads that the SBI links saving account and short-term loan rates to the repo rate. And this is related to a recent proposal of RBI which states that from 1st April 2019, banks would be required to use external benchmarks to link the interest rates instead of the present system of internal benchmarking. And this move of RBI was aimed at quick transmission of the changes in the repo rate. Now, this concept of external benchmarking has been discussed in the DNS of 26 February 2019 in detail. So in today's video description, a link will be provided for this video so that you can go through this DNS to understand the concept of external benchmarking of the interest rates. Now, after going through today's discussion, you should try and answer these questions from your preliminary examination point of view. And the answer for these questions will be displayed after 5 seconds. Now, the first question reads, consider the following statements about the ATMs in India. The first statement is, brown label ATMs are completely owned by the banks. Now, this is an incorrect statement because the brown label ATMs are only partially owned by the banks, and in this system, the ATM machines are owned by a non-banking entity. The second statement reads that the white label ATMs are partially owned by the banks. This statement is also incorrect because white label ATMs are owned by the non-banking entities. The third statement reads that the white label ATMs can use their own logos instead of the bank's logo. And this is a correct statement. So the correct answer that comes out is C, that is 3 only. The second question reads, which of the following countries are part of the G7 groupings? And the countries that are provided in the question include Russia, Canada, Italy, China and Japan. Now here you should note that Russia and China are not the members of the G7 groupings. So the correct answer that comes out is C, that is 2, 3 and 5. Now besides Canada, Italy and Japan, you should note that the other G7 countries include France, Germany, United Kingdom and the United States of America. Further, you should also try this question from your preliminary examination point of view, and the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the question reads, with reference to the Aadhaar, consider the following statement. The first statement reads, customer verification charges are levied by UIDAI authority on all the organizations. This is an incorrect statement because the government entities and the postal department are exempted from these charges. Second statement reads, there are no charges for the authentication of transactions done using the Aadhaar. This is also incorrect because a charge of 0.5 paisa will be levied for authentication of transactions done using the Aadhaar. So the correct answer is D, neither 1 nor 2. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.